The winter blast that is hitting Manhattan right now in the New York area. And Mamdani said, you know what? It'd be great if New Yorkers would get together and help out and decide they want to be snow shovelers as well. However, it's not that simple, according to the requirements.
Well, I think we should hear from him with his request saying you can join this, and then we will go into how you actually go about this process. And this is all in the context of everything that is going on within his own party nationally. So let's hear bite 4 from the mayor of New York himself on how you can get involved with such a massive historic snowstorm.
We're utilizing 33 DSNY vans and 2 DSNY buses to transport shovelers where they're needed faster. And for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow. And you can get started right away.
Show up with your paperwork, maybe just go to the website. Maybe there's a simple application you could print out. You know what? You'll be good to go. You'll be shoveling snow in no time in New York City. Again, from an in theory point of view, and actually even with the requirements, I'm not against this. I think that this is an interesting idea. Of course, though, you go to the website, and there are some basic requirements, Will. I think these would be considered basic requirements.
That's right. So to become an emergency snow shoveler where you can make $19.14 an hour, which increases to $28.71 per hour after your first 40 hours of work in a week, here's your eligibility requirements. You have to be 18 years old, eligible to work in the United States, and able to perform heavy physical labor. Here's how you register, though, which is raising some eyebrows. You have to bring 2 small photos of yourself, I assume for credentials, and then you need 2 original forms of ID. 2, not 1, 2 forms of ID, plus copies of them, and your Social Security card. So it seems to me, in a time of crisis in New York, it is much harder to become an emergency snow shoveler than the DNC would have it be to vote in an election in the United States. That is, if you count it, 3 forms of identification you have to bring just to get out there and shovel some snow for $19 an hour.
Look, we knew that these kind of things would happen, but it is comical that, of course, this is the case. If you want to work for New York, if you want to be a snow shoveler, not only multiple forms of identification, you got to find your Social Security card. You got to come up with all of these things. Of course, they say that's very difficult for people. Well, it's so difficult. Why, in times of emergency, have you then made it so difficult, if you will, to become a snow shoveler? At a time when you think you just say, hey, all hands on deck. If you bring your driver's license, bring 1 form of ID, let's get you working, because I don't know, there's going to be 15 feet of snow. But of course not. But Will's right. If you'd like to vote in this election, you can leave all that at home. You don't have to, you just tell him your name. And he was pressed on this. I think we got to be fair. Let's listen to what Zohran had to say.
There's been this controversy over the snow laborers and the sort of what some see as onerous need to have documentation. Can you just talk about if that's new and what you make of the controversy?
This is all long-standing. This is a long-standing program and long-standing requirements, and this is a way that New Yorkers get paid to shovel snow in assistance with the city's response to a winter storm event. Federal law requires that employers get authorization and documentation to pay people for their work. We are not allowed to just cut checks to individuals for their work. And these are the policies that we've had in place, but I understand that for many, it's the first time that they've ever heard about it.
So here's a lot to break down. One, because he's not wrong. There are federal work requirements. There's the I-9 form when you get a job you have to fill out. And you know what no one complains about? That's stopping people from getting a job, right? But they are so concerned that the requirements to have less, in some cases, forms of identification to register to vote, to secure the elections, that somehow is seen as racist. It is seen as un-American, and it just shows the absurdity of this. But I also love that, remember, he invoked weather, the mayor did, when he was in his inauguration speech. He talked about replacing the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. Those were his words. Right now, they are seeing a historic snowstorm, so maybe it was ill-advised of him to invoke weather when talking about this. He is faced with really, this is, I would say, the first major crisis of his administration. It is something that happens that you can't control.
Yeah.
But
maybe the first was meeting with President Trump and actually having a good experience.
That's right. That could be a crisis to some as well.
Crisis.
But you're seeing this, and he's the one who chose this language and talks about rugged individualism and the warmth of collectivism. I will say, we had that historic ice storm here in Tennessee, and you know what you saw? You saw people getting out with chainsaws, posting on Nextdoor and Facebook, who needs a generator? We had one. We didn't lose power. Who needs it? There was a community helping each other, getting people that were trapped in their homes with being able to free the streets from these trees that have broken and made it impassable in so many areas. And they weren't paid by the city government. Yes, I agree. This is a program that is probably well-intentioned. But when you have the warmth of collectivism, what it is the government has to find ways to coerce you to help your neighbor. And I feel like that is something we also can't lose sight of here, is that in areas where the warmth of collectivism is something that is envisioned as this utopia society, what you end up having is the government having to find ways to coerce their citizens to help each other. When you go to places where there is rugged individualism, it's people that understand I can work hard and I can do something for my neighbor. Individualism does not mean you don't love your neighbor. And I think that we can't lose sight of that in all of this, is that when you have the rugged individualistic spirit that America has, that ends up helping your neighbor. It ends up caring for the best of your community, not being forced by your government or your government having to find ways to incentivize you to do the right thing for your neighbor. And so I love this story for that fact alone, is that we can point out that in New York, they are having to find ways and encourage people to get out and help their neighbor. Is it nice that they're actually paying people to do this? Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem with that. But it also shows the irony of their ideology, that the very basic requirements to work, to shovel snow in the city on an emergency basis is harder to do than they would have it be to even register to vote and protect the sacredness of our elections here.
They've also made it very hard to live there. And I think that's something that when you look at people who are probably going to be signing up for this program, like I said, it's people who taking a day or two off work or 3 days off work, whatever it may be, with the storms that are coming in. These are people that need their hourly wage, or they need their gig work or whatever it may be, and all of a sudden have no cash, have no way to afford. So I get there are ways you can have a lot of people, a lot of New Yorkers who are in need right now and will need help and will need financial assistance, and let them go work. I got no problem with that. But when you start counterbalancing all of these issues that he's going to have, they've got to be smarter in this. Look, I've told you, I'm wearing it today. I pray for a thriving New York City. I think New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, these are places that maybe our audience has written off. I have not. I think they're three of our best cities in the world. It's some of our biggest places you can come and visit. It's why people want to come to America. Often is to see what I'd say New York, LA, Orlando, and maybe San Francisco and a few other cities around the country. That is some of the biggest driving force of tourism. We want these cities to be thriving.